Hey everybody, Goosebumps here, back again with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about The Ghost of Slappy. This is the 6th book in the Goosebumps Slappy World series, and it is a very infamous one. Mostly because of this just general idea of Slappy in his astral form. It's popular, it's very popular, mostly because it's a more recent book, and it features this very, very good cover art, though I think it's a bit overrated. Honestly, I hear a lot of glazing when people bring this one up, but honestly, it ain't too bad. But it's Slappy as a fucking ghost. That's why everybody gravitates this one so much. This is a story very popular just because it's Slappy as a fucking ghost, and I know it's popular. Don't fucking argue with me, because I have found this copy more than any other book in my life. Maybe Slappy Birthday to You, that might be a great contender, at fucking bookstores and Goodwills, and just generally anywhere you can find a Goosebumps book, resold or, manufactured there, like a Barnes & Noble, or Goodwill, if you're street sold. This book is so fucking common. Like, I see this book everywhere. Almost anytime I go thrifting, if there's gonna be a Slappy Road book, or a modern book, this is gonna be it. At least one of. So yeah, this is a very popular book. I at least find like 5 of these a year. And yeah, I buy it every time I see it. So yeah, let's talk about it. And now for the blurb. Ghosts are everywhere. Shep Mooney knows this is true. That's because he had a ghost of his own. She lives in his basement and always shows up to scare him when he goes down there. But Shep is about to have bigger problems. When the world's most evil ventriloquist dummy shows up, the real fun starts. Well, fun for Slappy. Home isn't safe and now school isn't either. Will Shep be able to find the most powerful version of Slappy yet? Which is a very bold claim. Yes, Slappy is a fucking ghost. And whilst this isn't a huge part of the story, because actually it takes a while to get there, I think it only kicks in around the third half. Sorry, the third. So, towards the 80-page mark. And maybe 90-page mark. It was when this actually happens. And I want to say, I'm a huge fan of the idea. I don't think I'm a big fan of Slappy. I know I am. When he's done right, he's done right. When he's not, it's usually because of his book and generally just the contents of it. Dummy formula really drags down my opinion on Slappy. And while said it's very much not present here, the mechanic and idea of Slappy being a ghost is so underutilized, it kind of makes me sad. And yeah, I am not a big fan of this book, at least not anymore. I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think it's even mid, but it's getting there. Let's just say, more disappointed by this book. So yeah, let's get to my upsides. Now, I was lying to you when I said I'm not a big fan of this book anymore. I still love a lot about this book, and I'm about to glaze a lot of things, because I still mean it when I say I really enjoyed this book, and I love a lot of things that it did. But it's just the fact that there are things that it did really not so well, which we'll get to later, that it just drags on the score a lot more than I am willing to, but realistically should. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Mainly because of a lot of things. There's a whole list of things. We're going to start off with Anna Lee and work from there. Anna Lee, that is the ghost antagonist of the book that isn't Slappy, which is something I have never seen before, which is a Slappy book with multiple antagonists. Now, we've seen stuff similar, alright? This book is direct. There are 2 villains, and one of them is Slappy, and one of them is this new ghost character named Anna Lee. Which is really cool. I really liked that. I really liked how she worked, how she played into the story around the end, too. I think her ending in the book is pretty solid. Pretty dark, but I like it. Of course, I like dark stuff in books. I like it when it pushes limits, but doesn't go full-on slasher mode. Nothing crazy. So I like that ending with Anna Lee, at least a part of it. And Anna Lee as a secondary, primary sort of antagonist is solid. She's good. The first 40 pages of the story are really fucking good, too. It is atmospheric, and whilst there's... The only issue I can really say is the annoying sister character. The annual annoying sibling, and it's just happens to be a little sister in this book. She pops up, and she does her thing, but outside of that, it's a really, solid 9 out of 10 worthy, maybe a 10 out of 10? First 40 pages. The atmosphere is great. the setting of a camp for a Slappy book. It's super unique. There's some great atmosphere, and I think it's a really fun time with how it plays out, and this dread of Slappy wandering around the forest. It is something we haven't seen before, and yeah, there's also the Anna Lee introduction. Solid as hell, first 40 pages. I think it is great. And next up, Slappy himself is actually, this is one of his best book appearances ever. Mostly because of the graveyard scene, which is, dare I say, one of the best scenes I've seen in a Slappy book ever. I said it. I think the graveyard scene in this book is one of the best scenes in any Slappy, not Goosebumps, but any Slappy book I've ever seen, just because it's so jaw-dropping, because it comes out of nowhere, because Slappy fucking dies in it. It's something you just don't expect. I mean, sure, Ghost of Slappy kind of hints at it, but you're like, it's not something you're used to, especially if you've read a bunch of Slappy books and Goosebumps before. You don't expect Slappy to just fucking drop dead. You know, crack his skull open and fucking die. Halfway through the book. This is around halfway. But it happens. And it's a jaw-dropper, it's a great scene, and really adds to Slappy as a, likable villain for most of the book. He's a solid threat to the main character, and it gets, it's really amplified by the fear of, alright, we have this great villain so far, and then he's going to turn to a ghost. So how is that going to work? We'll get to that later. You know what I mean? The main character is really, really good, and I think he's way above average for especially a modern character. He isn't a copy and paste of your average Goosebumps protagonist. He is given some lore and a hidden arc. Because, yes, he has the lore, like I said. He had some backstory given, which I thought was really interesting to see for once. With friends and relationships. But he had a fucking arc, which was really not shown or very present, but it was there. It is obvious that he's afraid of Anna Lee. He's fucking terrified of her. But when Slappy comes into play, which he's also terrified of, when Slappy becomes a ghost, he has to deal with it. And he's starting to just not become afraid of ghosts. Basically, he's slowly maturing. It's like a maturity arc. Also, this is the big moment in the book. When Slappy escapes through the garage, he decides to go after him when he could, and he even states this, he could very well just not. But he goes after him because it's his responsibility. He feels responsible, which is a sense of maturity. And I thought that was just something super unique in this book. From any other Goosebumps book. Yeah, I've been rambling for 6.5 minutes now, but you get the idea. This book is different. This book has some really good stuff. I think the friend character is a nice supporting role, and I think the arcs, the setting of the camp, the first 40 pages, which literally steps on the gas pedal with Slappy coming to life in the first 10 fucking pages, I'm not even kidding, I believe, of the actual story itself. He hijacks a bus. It's fucking insane. I love that. And yeah, the story is really good for the first half. This book has some fucking big-ass issues, man. Of which I sadly can't ignore. Let's start off with some smaller ones. It's repetitive as all fucking mighty hell in the final third of the book. Boring. Sadly as hell. It is boring. Slappy being a ghost, which we'll get to in a second, it's boring. He does the same shit over and over again, and it gets really boring until, the final, page or two kick in, the final few chapters when they're like, okay, let's fucking end this. Die Slappy. It's repetitive. Also, there's some annoying side characters. Like I mentioned, there's a sister that's annoying. I believe a sister. I'm pretty sure it was a little sister. If not, it's a little brother in 3rd grade. But yeah, not really much to be said there. Here we go. Slappy as a ghost. It's underwhelming as hell. Alright, I originally thought it was really cool when I read this a few years ago. And when I read this again with the audiobook, I found that it was just super... Man, all this fucking does is make Slappy able to fly. How they learn to fly with Slappy. That's all this turns into. without the learning part. Slappy can just fucking fly. He can just fucking fly. That's all it does. Basically. He can phase through walls, but either way, that doesn't really add much. Slappy being able to fly, sure, it adds a bit. You know, Slappy is more able to get to where this kid's at, but not like he couldn't before. Alright, this dude traveled from the graveyard, from a camp, to a bus, to this kid's house, to his basement, to everywhere, most of which without being a ghost. So, him being a ghost, the only real purpose it serves is the one scene where he's on the horse, where he can fly with the kid. And even then, he could have just been, like, hitching a ride in the horse's saddle. There's nothing added with this besides slightly easier movability with Slappy and navigation. So it's practically fucking pointless. That's about it. He doesn't have any astral powers along with this. He's actually kind of nerfed in a way, and also doesn't show up to other people, which I guessed is good, but either way, that didn't really affect it, because there was one scene where he was even around people, and that was for like a split second. That was the horse when it was taking off. Because he was around someone to have done that, because the horse took off when someone was around. And that didn't need to happen. He could just been hiding on the saddle and just kick the horse's ballsack. This is fucking pointless. It's just Slappy, but he can fly, and it doesn't do much. Yeah, I am clearly not a fan of how fucking poorly executed this ghost idea is. It's so simple. And you do nothing with him. Make Slappy a ghost. Make him utilize this, instead of just doing the most blatant Slappy shit ever. Make him have astral powers, and add to this. Alright, I made a whole little list of things he could have done on Goodreads. There could have been unfinished business, which would have been really fucking cool. You could have made it a whole ass special edition like Slappy Beware, where he's dealing with that. Going back to past enemies that he never defeated and got defeated by. Because he does defeat some kids in some books. In Slappy Rule, too, so it's not an old thing. And he wins here. He wins in this book, which is my next thing. Let's move on to that. Slappy wins. Now, originally, I'm a big fan of this. But when I discovered that there is a hidden arc in this book, that ending fucking shits on it. I'm usually a fan of these dark endings, and I'm fine with how, you know, Anna Lee plays that. I'm fine that she was revealed to be an opposing force all along, even though that was obvious. I like how it goes about it, I'm saying. But she didn't really need to hammer in this really shitty final page of Slappy, because albeit it's fine on its own, with the entire story attached to it, it's taken a massive dunk on this arc that this main character goes through to basically become a braver human being, to mature. This is a book about maturity, guys. This is clearly about maturity. And it shits on that. And it's really sad to see. Because Slappy wins. You expect this kid to actually defeat Slappy, because he's maturing. He's manning up and finally going to take this into his own hands instead of fighting like he had done from Anna Lee. He was scared shitless of Anna Lee, but when he's finally not scared shitless of Slappy, Slappy wins. Really, dude? It's so fucking disappointing, and it just leaves a sour, bitter taste in your mouth. Let's move on to my rating. Now, finally done talking about the absolute monster of a weirdly complicated book that is Ghost of Slappy. I give this book a 6.5 out of 10. I think this could have been one of the best Goosebumps books ever made, let alone one of the best Slappy stories ever, if the ending were different, the repetitiveness, and Slappy actually being a ghost meant something besides being a marketing idea. Yeah. If that was used more in a more creative way, without it being repetitive and shitty sister character, this could have been like one of the most perfect, flat-out, genuinely amazing Slappy stories. It's underwhelming and disappointing, but I still really like a lot of it. Yeah, that is Ghost of Slappy. Hope you guys enjoyed this book review, and tell me what you think of Ghost of Slappy down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.